So let's try to understand the hidden meaning of that question. So for this, let's plot the capacity in bits per second versus the bandwidth of the channel curve, which is in hertz. And while plotting, we assume that the SNR or P by sigma square is 1. So we have already calculated in our numerical that limit when your bandwidth is quite high, the capacity is P by sigma square into 1.44. Since we are assuming that P by sigma square is 1, so the capacity will be 1.44. So this curve is wherein P by sigma square is equal. So this is the 1.44 line. So this is 1.44 bits per second. So when your bandwidth is quite high, at infinite, when your bandwidth is almost infinite, then your capacity will be 1.44. So it means it is not true that if you increase your bandwidth to a very large number, your capacity will always increase. This is not true. So increasing your W does not necessarily imply that your capacity will increase beyond a certain range. Right? It doesn't mean that if W is infinite, it does not imply that C is infinite. You can get the infinite bit rate. This is not true. And if you see in the beginning, when you increase your bandwidth from 0 to some value, the increase in capacity is quite large. I mean, the slight change in W gives a large increase in your capacity. So initially, when you provide very less bandwidth to your system and then you increase the bandwidth, the capacity will increase with a very sharp rate, very sharp rate. That is why this region is called bandwidth limited region. Means the capacity depends mostly on the bandwidth. If you increase your bandwidth slightly, the change, the increasing capacity will be quite large. So this region is called bandwidth limited regime. But this regime, when you increase your W to beyond a certain range, as you can see, increase in W to a very large extent also will increase your capacity to very small extent, right? If you increase your W from here to here, the capacity increases only this much. So in this regime, increasing the bandwidth will not help you increasing your capacity. But then what you have to do, you have to increase your power. In this case, we are assuming power is equal to 1. But if you increase your power to some 10, then what would happen? The capacity will be P by sigma square into 1.44, so it will become 10 times into 1.4. So if you plot this same plot, one more plot, when your P by sigma square is 10, then what will happen if this is your, not up to the scale, but just assume that this is 14.4, then your curve will be something like this, right? Something like this. P by sigma. So then you have to increase your power if you want to operate in this regime. That is why it is called power limited regime.